Okay, we're going. We're live. What's going on, D-Bags? Hope you guys are doing well. We're back here again with another episode of the Detox Podcast, episode 288 to be exact. If you're new here to enjoy music, podcasts, comedy, or hooping videos, do consider subscribing. We've got a whole bunch of that stuff going on around here. When you do subscribe, leave a like or hang out with us here in the live chat like you're going to do tonight. Helps us share conversations and laughs like this with more people. So do consider doing that. Now, before I can introduce you guys to my guest today, I got to talk to you guys a little bit about vacation time. It's getting cold in the Midwest. I know it took a little bit, but it's starting to get cold. And there's no better place to enjoy some of that cold, harsh Midwestern winter than with Alpine House 2, today's video sponsor. Let's be real. There's nothing better than a well-earned vacation. It feels good to just get away from everything for a little bit and enjoy yourself. Alpine House 2 is a classic Swiss chalet duplex A-frame with a log cabin interior located directly across the street from the Ski Berlay Resort in Iron River, Michigan. Surrounded by forests, lakes, rivers, Iron River more specifically, Alpine House 2 is the destination for fishing, hunting, hiking, snowmobiling, and of course, skiing if you're into that. Currently, they just finished their first about 4.5 months now of booking on Airbnb. They've been booked up almost exclusively Thursdays through Sundays because that's when the ski resort is bumping. So if you want to get in there while you've still got time, look now. Try to book something a couple weeks in advance. Go to at ALPINEHAUS number 2 on Instagram. That's at Alpine House 2 on Instagram. To hit them up, tell them D-Rita Detox sent you, and they will set you guys up with a vacation. That's at Alpine House 2 for sponsoring this episode. Shout out to them. Now, before I want to introduce you guys to my guest this week, we got to give a very wet detox welcome to reporter James Groh is in the building. You're here.
I'm here.
You're here.
We made it.
We're reporting on you today.
Yeah, we're flipping the script. It's interesting, but I'm all here for it.
I'm excited. So, we talked about it a little bit before we went live that like you do reporting for TMJ4. Mm-hmm. You've been with them for, you said, 5.5 years.
Yeah.
What are the news stories that people are skipping over right now? Just give a little bit of flavor what you do.
Interesting. So yeah, my job is to cover all the things that are fun, different, interesting, positive, weird, historical, quirky, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You got your crime, your politics, that sort of thing, your hard news.
Yeah.
I don't cover that. I used to have to cover that. It's not my forte. Now I'm more of the fun guy, the feature guy.
How do you get to be the fun guy?
I had to take my opportunities when I had fun stories and really zhuzh them up, and put a lot of effort into them. And then I created a reel, like a demo tape essentially, that was like, hey, here's me doing all this type of stuff. Luckily, TMJ4 wanted somebody like me. Yeah. To be honest, I'm not great at the like hard news. I have to knock on people's doors after a traumatic experience and say, hey, can you talk to a stranger on camera about the worst moment in your life? And then hundreds of thousands of people could potentially see it.
Yeah.
It's tough,
Yeah, it sounds less fun.
Yeah, it's less fun. Shout out to the people who do it because it's important. We have to have it.
Yeah.
And they're great at what they do. Like TMJ4 has amazing people at that. It's just not my strong suit. I'm good at being weird and quirky and fun and finding that story. Like you mentioned, what's being glossed over?
Yeah.
My job is to find that story that people aren't normally telling or TV news wouldn't normally tell.
Yeah. And for instance, for an example, a story you covered recently was there's like a national, or I don't know if it's national, but a grocery bagging championship.
Yeah.
And I worked in retail, I worked at Target. I bagged groceries before.
Right.
So I was extremely interested when I saw that.
Yeah.
These are the kind of things you find. How do you find that? How do you even discover that that's a thing that goes on?
I'm deep in the internet all the time, looking up like random things. I've actually on multiple occasions pulled up a random word generator, and then I'll have it generate 2 words, and then I'll just keep clicking generate until 2 words that pique my interest come up. Throw that into Facebook, throw those words into Google, see what comes up.
Just look.
I have done stories on a guy going to the national bricklaying competition, the national plumbing competition, and the national grocery bagging competition.
Did you get to go to those events, or did you?
I didn't. I just did it. Preview. Hey, local guy going to this national competition.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Is it like? Are they pretty excited, I bet, when you reach out to them? Because I bet there's not a lot of news coverage.
There's not a lot of news coverage of that kind of stuff, so they're pumped to be able to do that and be able to tell their story, because that's like, it's a little funky, it's a little like left of center, right?
Yeah.
But that's what's cool is like everybody's got a story, and there's like so many interesting people out there, and my job is just to get to talk to them and be like, what makes you tick? What motivates you? You could do anything in the world, but you decided to do this. why.
Do you think, what do you, like, has there been a through line? Is there anything that maybe you've like learned in the people that do these sort of oddball things, but they're very, very passionate about them, very interested, and pretty good at them, it seems like in most cases?
It's the thing is they have dedication to whatever their hobby, their craft, their profession, whatever it is, right? The guy who's a grocery bagger, he just got really good at grocery bagging and now it's paying off, right? Or somebody who's like a wood artist, they started off making not so great art and then they kept on doing it, and now they're making awesome art. Painter, musician, whatever it may be. It's somebody who just like sticks true to their passion and says, I don't care about messing up, I don't care about being imperfect, I just love doing it and I'm going to continue doing it. And then somehow I find them and we do a story.
It's interesting. I think the internet has allowed for more of those sort of passions and hobbies to like actually, I guess, sort of prosper, because I imagine there's probably been tons of people throughout the history of retail that thought they were great baggers, grocery baggers, but now there's enough people and that get together on the internet and are like, you know what, we're going to make a championship for this. That's pretty sick.
This was, yes, I agree with what you said. And now we have more access to seeing those types of things. All these national championships for plumbing, bricklaying, grocery bagging, it's all done, coordinated by like a larger
corporation or
like
something?
So like the grocery bagging competition is organized by like the National Grocers Retailers Association or something, right?
Whoa.
So that's who's putting it on. The plumbing thing was by an organization that's trying to promote plumbing at a national level, get more plumbers, more people into the trades, that sort of thing. So it's not like this homegrown grassroots, like, hey, we're all just like messing around.
Yeah.
There is like levels to this, and that's how they have the organization. That
makes more sense then, I guess, especially in like a trade sense, right? With plumbing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What has been, I guess, in 2024, what's the weirdest thing you covered?
Dude, okay, that's a little easier because some people are always like, what's your favorite story? And that's like, I imagine it when I have kids one day, it's like, who's your favorite child?
Yeah.
One of the weirdest stories. Okay, this was weird and wild and took turns. I did a story on love letters that were more than 100 years old, found in like the space between the roof or the ceiling and the roof of this business in Milwaukee. And it detailed this like mysterious, scandalous story of an actor who was writing love letters to his mistress in Milwaukee because he was married to a lady. And he was writing letters to his mistress in Milwaukee. And then it turned out he was writing letters to another woman, too.
Wow.
And these are 100-year-old love letters, more than 100 of them.
Yeah.
And they were perfectly preserved. And I did a story on him, and it was like, what the hell are the odds of this happening? You know? And then this happening in Milwaukee, and there's all these twists and turns. Like, it's like weird, but it's super cool, too.
Yeah. Did you end up finding out who the actor was?
We know, his name is Mitchell Ingraham. We know who the woman is, Teresa Reichel. We know her address. We know her family. Because we did, deep dive on like Ancestry.com, that sort of thing to figure out.
Is that something that sort of starts off maybe innocent, where again, sort of randomly you stumble upon a piece of it, and then as you're like digging and digging and digging, more and more is unfolding. Like, how fulfilling is that part? Do you enjoy the chase of like, oh my God, this is way bigger than I thought it was?
That story was not. I didn't actually have to do the majority of the legwork. I did none of it. The story was actually presented to me. They were like, hey, James, we got this crazy story. Do you want to report on it? And it was actually our anchor who forwarded me the idea. He was like, James, I think you'll do a good job with this.
Yeah.
And so that was just on a platter.
Oh, nice. That was a layup.
Yeah, that was a layup, dude. I was like, yeah. That is so crazy,
That is wild. Okay. So being in Milwaukee now for 5.5 years, I don't know if you've lived in Milwaukee longer than that or if it's been about that time. Have you seen, and you're doing journalism, reporting in a more of like a digital landscape now as things have shifted. How, like, what is sort of the news's opinion, or more legacy news's opinion, on like people like Tommy G, or that are like
interesting,
reporting on things in real life, don't necessarily have a degree in journalism, are sort of doing their own thing. How do you feel about it, I guess, or how does the news feel about it?
I mean, I personally love what they're doing. Like Tommy G and we've gotten coffee together before. We just hung out, shot the shit. He's an awesome dude. I love what he's doing. I think it's really good. Legacy media is wary of that kind of thing because normally we have like these strict parameters or rules that we think we have to abide by. And one of the things is like my bosses and like corporate news, they would probably say something like, well, we don't want to give the people that they're interviewing these platforms because then in a sense we're glorifying it, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a guy, Urban Tarzan, I want to say, in Milwaukee, and his whole thing is like, I go and I climb things that people shouldn't normally climb. Let's say the Calatrava at the Milwaukee Art Museum, right?
Yeah.
That's really weird. That's really strange. Why is he doing this? Is that worth a story? Should we be like promoting that or should we not?
Gotcha.
And so I'm cool with what like Tommy G or like Andrew Callahan at Channel 5 do. I think what they're doing is awesome. They're telling super raw stories because the medium of like YouTube and Patreon kind of allows for that. And I think there's like a desire for that sort of news that like young people want to see. But what they're doing too is different because they're working at like a more national level where like their audience is saying, you know, if you do a story about the Latin Kings or you do a story about like the craziest hillbilly party in the South, you've got people from California to Massachusetts reading that or watching that. In southeastern Wisconsin, that all like our audience is southeastern Wisconsin, so we do story about taxes, which aren't interesting, but it's super important, right? Like if your property taxes go up, you want to know what's going on. Legacy. So to answer your question, legacy media won't ever touch the kind of stories they're doing, because they're afraid that it's like a little too raw, or like, hey, you need to have both sides of the coin, where sometimes like I don't think they always have, you know, talk to both sides. And I've talked to Tommy about that before. I was like, hey, one of these stories you should have had the other side, just because like you got to hear from them, right?
Yeah, I know. Like obviously like one of his bigger ones is like the Kia Boys doc from however many years ago. People had a lot of opinions on that, and I do think to an extent that maybe we could have done a better job of like highlighting the people that are affected by that. Like we talked to like a couple people at the beginning, and then the rest of it was like, well, look how kind of fun this is, and I'm also gonna blur the license plate of the car they just stole, which is kind of, you know, to me, and I've never talked to Tommy G. I've talked to a couple people that have talked to him. To me, that somewhat seems like unethical. In a sense, it's like, okay, you kind of just watched these guys do a crime and didn't report it. Like you blatantly blur out the license plate so they can get away with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that that ethical dilemma, honestly, because I also see a total merit in the like, this is what's going on.
Sure.
And if you want to understand what's going on, you need to see it, and somebody needs to show it, because otherwise we're just like letting it happen in the shadows, or we talk about it but we don't show it. And like, I mean, it's like, well, talk to the person who does it. Why do you do it? If you steal cars, why do you steal cars? Are you cool knowing that like it's changing other families' lives? You've seen your friends get in car accidents. You've seen your friends kill other people. You've seen your friends kill yourself or kill themselves. Why do you do it? And I think there's like, it's totally valid to ask those people that question, because we need to understand. Then you just also have to be like, here's what the police are trying to do. Here's here's a mother or a father or a brother of a victim, you know.
Do you think that sort of thing maybe, and not calling out Tommy G specifically, but just like in general, that sort of thing is maybe it's lost in the sense like you went to journalism school, like you went to school for this thing, as so did a lot of people that are in normal legacy medium jobs. Do you think that that's maybe what's missing on those side of things? Would that help maybe those people get a little bit more validity and a little bit more, maybe there'd be a little bit more cross-pollination between legacy media and people like Tommy G? Because like you said, he is doing and showing things that people aren't noticing, or people maybe we're all talking about in Milwaukee, but until he did that, it wasn't like a known thing. And then he really highlighted it, and now everyone's like, oh, this is a real issue. Like this is a real thing. So like there is value in it, but maybe there's a way.
Maybe, I don't know. I think you've seen Vice does similar things,
Vice,
right?
yeah.
I think there's a funny meme where the dude throws like a dildo at a chart, and it's like, which country we're going to, what crazy drug are we going to talk about, right?
Yeah.
Vice just has the name Vice, and it's like a corporate brand, and so maybe people see it has more legitimacy than just dude, right? Like a random person. Yeah, sure, everybody could have that kind of like background that would help them more with like a little bit of journalism, but I don't think anything they're doing is wrong.
Yeah.
They've got a camera. They're just showing real life, or like CNN will go and they'll try to do stories in like prisons in Central America to show like, hey, what is this like, and what do these people think? And they're showing pretty explicit things.
Yeah.
That Tommy or Andrew Callahan or Brandon Buckingham, they could do all the same thing. I think it's cool. I say more journalism, more stories, have more people talk. That's sweet.
Yeah, I could see that. Like just having more access to more stories is not necessarily going to
Mm-hmm.
be a negative.
And just because you put them on a platform doesn't mean you're glamorizing it. I think that's what legacy media is thinking. I just don't think, that's necessarily glamorizing. You're just saying what is.
Yeah.
And that's it. And if you want to take it as glamorizing, or they themselves in that video want to see it like that, that's on them.
When would you say it is maybe glamorizing something? How would you, or have you ever seen an example where maybe the news or someone is glamorizing? How would you characterize
Glamorizing crime or something?
Glamorizing crime, a way of life that maybe isn't super.
I'm a hip hop fan.
Yeah.
Hip hop music.
Sure. Yeah.
Infidelity and drugs and drinking and all of that. Like, there's your example of glamorizing, but it's like viewed in a different realm, right? I literally make rap music, so I'm cool, but I get it. It's like there's a lot of tough things in there. Now you could also make the argument that's just part of life, and that is like real experiences.
Yeah.
So that's where I see it. I've actually never seen it in any other like journalistic piece of video. I've always thought, okay, no, that's pretty fair. They're just asking a question. They're not like I think it's when you ask pointed questions of like how it's like a pointed question of being like, hey, these are the top people in their neighborhood and they're doing amazing things. If you like added that editorialization, then it's glamorizing. But otherwise,
when you're if you're just genuinely asking and you try to be as unbiased, that I can see that. I definitely can respect that. What do you think it takes to be a journalist in 2025?
Curiosity.
Curiosity.
Curiosity, willing to ask questions, and then like hold your tongue, right? Like ask the question, why do you do this? What do you like? And then letting it come back to you and letting them just talk, rather than like if somebody said something you don't agree with, you wait for them to finish and then you offer like, I totally hear what you're saying, but some people might say blah 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 blah. That's all it is.
Was that something that came to you pretty naturally, or is that something that you had to sort of learn over the years?
I've always been a curious person. I've always had like a bunch of different hobbies. I'm just like naturally interested in what's going on. And actually one of the things I tell our interns is if you're doing a story with somebody, so like, and this is on such a low stakes level, but it was on a glamping business where they provide luxurious sleepover experiences for people. So you can hire them, they'll come up, set up the most adorable, cutest like sleepover event for your, say like your 7-year-old and their friends for, a 7th birthday or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's really cool, but most people would I'd ask them questions, blah blah blah, and be like, most people would say this is unnecessary, that people have been having sleepovers for many, many years. Why should people use this? And they'd say blah, blah, blah. And then I'd say, okay, a lot of other people would also say, this is really expensive. This is hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars for a sleepover.
Yeah.
Some people would say that's absurd. How do you respond? Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's all fair questions. And then it's responding in just like a really regular, normal person way.
Yeah.
You know?
Is that a real thing? People do that?
TMJ4.com, glamping.
There's
Google it.
Really?
I did a story this summer. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I know of like the concept of glamping, but there's like separately a sleepover.
Sleepover glamping.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my parents didn't love me like that, dude.
Nah,
and even if they did, they didn't have the money to do that.
It was
insane.
just sleeping. Bring a sleeping bag over, and like maybe you'll find a pillow if you're lucky.
They told me go to someone else's house.
Yeah,
no one's sleeping here.
exactly.
You go to someone else's house. You figure it out.
Yeah, you don't keep us up all night watching scary movies and eating your candy, staying up late.
That's that's insane. I mean, some people would say that's absurd. That's a very polite way to just go. Maybe I'll start using that on the show instead of when sometimes I'll be kind of rude to people. Instead of doing that, I'll just be like, well, some people would say, you're brain dead. That's terrible.
That's a technique I use often. I say, some people might say, that's a little weird what you're doing. What do you think?
Do you ever use that with your girlfriend?
No, I'm normally
that would be that would be hilarious. Well, babe, some people would say that we should go here for dinner.
No, she's sometimes been like, James, you're interviewing me right now. I need you to stop.
Whoa.
I mean, do you ever get that? Does your girlfriend ever say that?
No, I don't think so. No, she just doesn't listen to me.
Oh,
yeah, she's the boss.
She doesn't have a mic right now, so she can't say anything.
Yeah, she can't play back. This is my one chance at freedom. It's like blink twice video. Yeah. We're out here. What do you think people misunderstand the most about journalism or specifically like what you do?
Ooh, those are two different questions.
Okay.
Most misunderstood thing that I do is that it's just fluff pieces,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like doesn't actually matter. That my stories are like whatever, move on.
Do people internally, like within the news, is that what you get that vibe from them?
With internally and externally, yeah.
Really?
There's always been feature reporters, but I think the people who are like the hardcore news, like hard news, breaking news, that sort of thing, that's like looked upon a little more with a little bit more validity.
Yeah.
Whereas especially when I first started, because I was like paving my own way, creating this new role within the company, it was like, oh, James just does the weird stories. He's just the quirky guy, you know? And it's like, no, actually, I think my personality plays into the type of stories I do. But what's really important is that, like, if I'm doing a story on you, you have things you want to say. You have passions, you have beliefs, and I want to do my best to make you feel heard and understood.
And I think also what you do is important because it paints a larger picture of what's going on in any given point in time, right? Like if the company you're working for is putting out 100 stories in a month, like if 100 of them were all just serious, like these are all the 100 worst things that happened this month. Like, yeah, we need to know about the 100 worst things that happened this month, but if that was all we got, I would be pretty stressed out and depressed and scared. We had a skit that never saw the light of day on this channel. We did like a morning news versus the nightly news, and how like the morning news tends to be like, you know, pretty positive and like this thing happened, whatever. And then it was like the nightly news, and the anchor was like, he was messed up and just stressed out, hated his life. But I think like with what you do, showing people that do fun, that there is also fun, there is also excitement and weirdness going on in the world. You know, it's nice to see that.
It's important, and we need that palate cleanser. Now, everybody says, yeah, we need to have positive news. Yeah. But nobody like watches the positive news or clicks on the positive news. They just
hate is way better for engagement.
Blood and guts. If it bleeds, it leads is the classic like newspaper line.
Yeah.
And I can see the data on my stories. I want everybody to click on my stories. Like, help me out so that way I can, you know,
make more positive stuff.
Yeah, right? Yeah. But unfortunately, the facts are people don't click on that. Yeah. If you're here like 4 people shot, you'll click on it. But if you're like master and accordionist is trying to preserve the sound of the accordion, you're just gonna whatever. Yeah, you don't care.
Way less people are gonna click that. Yeah. Have you seen I'm sure you have. Have you seen the film Nightcrawler?
Yeah.
As someone who's in media, what do you think about that movie?
That's like,
because it's more so a psychological. It's about
the
sociopathic nature of that guy.
Those people are real. Who are like they call them stringers. Yeah. Who are just like working the overnight hours, and they know that, you know, we can not have an overnight person, and we'll just, you know, pay them on a freelance basis basically, or like a per content basis. Yeah. So those people are real. Not to that extent, obviously it's a dramatization. Sure. But there's like some truth to it of like, we are literally chasing ambulances and people at their worst moments. Yeah. I don't have a good way to reconcile between the need to talk about, hey, this weekend there were 4 people shot and killed, compared to the, hey, here's a funky story about a person who collects a lot of Winnie the Pooh items, right? You need both. Yeah. I don't know how you lean, if you lean more towards one or the other, but yeah, that stuff happens. We are chasing ambulances.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even like, so like we were gonna have you on a couple weeks ago to do this show, which is a usually goofy or raunchy or whatever, and we weren't able to do that because of serious real life shit going on. There was a school shooting up in Madison, and you had to cover that. So I mean, like, how is it for you when something like that happens? Does it sort of like any sort of quirky, weird story you have going on? Is that sort of like, yeah, James, we're gonna chill.
You got to read the room, right? And so I switched some of my duties to then creating some content for our social platforms about like, here's just the latest about what happened, and updating it as we got more information. But I mean, you can't. It's like a trope within local news if it's like, you know, fire on the south side killed family and their dog. And now we're going to James, who's with a cupcake decorating artist. Yeah. And now it's like, whoa. Read the room.
I don't want to hear from James right now.
Yeah.
Fuck the cupcakes,
We don't
man.
need that. We don't need cupcakes right now.
Yeah.
Screw that. Like
Yeah.
push that to the next day. You know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's gotta be tough. Has a segment you've worked on ever been like just had to be scrapped because of other things going on, or?
Oh yeah. So you always get if breaking news happens, and it's big enough,
Yeah.
you got to go. Now I recognize I am actually, given my role as the fun guy, the last person they call when shit hits the fan. There's like 6 other reporters who are going before me.
Yeah.
But a few times I have been called because it's been school shooting threats. It was the Molson Coors shooting like almost 5 years ago now.
Oh, wow.
And then my day changed a lot with the shooting at the school in Madison. So
Yeah.
and that happens. Like my coworkers get switched all the time from stories. They might be at one thing and then they're like, "Whoa, we got breaking news. Sorry, we got to divert you." That could be mid-interview. That could be like right now. I got a phone call, be like, "Hey, this is going on."
Yeah.
Jet out.
Wow.
Mhm.
That could be disorienting, I feel like, especially if you're like a regimented person. You're like, all right, I'm going to get this part of my work done here. I'm going to answer some emails at this time of the day. And then all of a sudden,
You can't be regimented if you're in news because things change in a moment.
Yeah.
So you've just got to be willing to like, go with the flow. What's happening? We're going to make this change.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, you have to be flexible.
And that's also why we love the job, because there's so much change and there's uncertainty and it's just fun like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to know that I don't want to be an accountant.
Yeah.
Cool to be an accountant. I don't blame you for it. It's not me.
Would you do a story on an accountant?
If
There was something cool that he was
if there's
doing?
something super cool about, if the accountant was giving maybe like free tax advice to disadvantaged people and helping them save thousands of dollars, I might do a story on that accountant.
That'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Accountants listening, watching.
Accountants listening, accounting
Please?
firms,
Yeah.
reach out.
Yeah, that'd be a great, some great PR.
Yeah.
Okay. What are some of the best kept secrets in Wisconsin and or Milwaukee now that you've been reporting on it for a while?
And it is my job to know the cool things and do the cool things.
To do the fun stuff.
Yeah, I get to do all the fun stuff. All right, oh my gosh. Taqueria El Cabrito on the south side. Fire.
Okay.
Love that spot.
Yeah?
Absolutely love it. I got a whole taqueria list. My friend and I, we go. We rank taquerias. We love that kind of food. So Taqueria El Cabrito. That's amazing. Blue Star Cafe, which is on the east side on Farwell, just south of Brady.
Yeah.
Amazing food.
Really?
What are they? Are they East African, I want to say?
What do you get there? What's your go-to?
Ooh, it's this like lamb rice dish. It's not a good description of it at all.
But it's good.
That is like the most basic description, but it's amazing.
You don't got to know what it is to know that it's good.
They don't have any art on the walls.
Okay.
It's totally like bare, except for like one TV that will play like The Price is Right or the Packers game.
Wow. The food is just that good. It don't matter.
The food is so good, dude.
I don't
And I
need to look
kind
at
of
the
love
walls.
walking into a place like that.
Yeah.
Because that's why, there's no fronts.
Yeah.
What's another like really cool place that I've been to? Oh my gosh, I was just telling my girlfriend that we needed to do this. Actually, oftentimes when I come back from stories,
Yeah.
I tell my girlfriend, like, oh my God, I've just figured out another thing we have to do.
Yeah.
Dude, this wasn't it, but the Basilica at St. Josephat, you go in there, you are in another country. You are in like a beautiful like Roman basilica. That's on the south side. You can see
Really?
it if you're driving south. It's the big domed church-looking
Yeah.
thing on your right if you're going south.
Yeah.
Unreal beauty. You're like, this belongs in like Venice or Rome or Milan or Paris, and it's here in Milwaukee.
Yeah. And it's just a church, right? You can just.
Anybody can go in
Wow.
anytime. It's just a church. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Deal.
Basilica St. Josephat.
Yeah.
Unreal.
I've driven past it like 100 times. I never.
And we all have.
Yeah.
And then you never go in.
Okay.
Right?
So
That's
is
worth
that beautiful?
Go in. It's free. 5 minutes. And if you don't care, walk out.
Yeah.
But if you don't go in there and be like, wow, this is beautiful, you're a liar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They might I don't know if they don't do spell. Is it what kind of religion is it? it
Catholic
Christianity?
Church.
Oh, Catholic.
Yeah.
Yeah, Catholics don't do like spells or anything, but if they did, they would put one on you. I think.
They would absolutely
if you-
hex you.
Yeah.
If you didn't say
Dude,
that, you know.
I think I said we were talking religion a few weeks ago on the podcast. They did pop. I'm not super religious
Yeah.
myself, but they popped off with the architecture, dude. That's beautiful.
Oh my god!
Even from the outside.
Cathedrals,
It's gorgeous.
basilicas. One of the things I like, because I was like, oh, let's get into religion. But one of the things I like to tell people right before I do an interview, I use this every single day. I go, hey, so we're going to talk about easy things, you know, nothing too crazy. I'm just going to ask you questions about like politics, religion, and the economy.
Yeah, okay. There we
Always
go.
gets a laugh.
Yeah, yeah.
Always gets a
Perfect.
laugh. And it just like disarms people,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Because people are like, either people are like, all right, let's go. What do you got for me? Or they're like, oh, no. I don't want to touch those
Yeah.
subjects, you know?
I'd almost be scared if they were excited. I would be scared for what I'm about to
You
get
know what?
into.
I love people who are passionate.
Yeah.
Give it to me, man. Like, that is something I have learned in my job. I want people who are just passionate about something. I might disagree with you, but like, hit me with it. I can take
Sure.
it. You could tell me the most unhinged thing, and I've heard some unhinged things,
I'm
and I
sure.
just, okay.
Have you ever like you're doing you're doing a piece that's maybe on somebody's collection of, I don't know, some sort of knickknack, assorted knickknacks or whatever, and it's a super positive thing, and maybe they just start veering off into some crazy, maybe alt-right ideologies, and you're like, hey man, I'm gonna cut the last 30 minutes, but everything else was great.
Sometimes people will throw in their own political beliefs and everything.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, okay, cool. It's not a part of the story. And then I just don't include it, and I don't even really acknowledge it. I just go, okay, absolutely, totally get you. And then continue with my line of questioning.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever been like, I can't believe you didn't include that thing about Biden or about Trump.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever said that.
They're like, that the thing about Polly Pockets
Yeah.
is what Trump's doing to the economy. You're
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
okay, we're gonna
Like, oh my God.
fast forward
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
That's hilarious. So I know you said like obviously it would be impossible to pick a story that's your favorite story. When you were getting started, maybe specifically in this lane of like covering weird and interesting and fun things,
Yeah.
was there a story that like you felt super proud of early on where you're like, ooh, I think I figured it out. Like I think I figured out sort of where my lane is gonna be.
No, the tough answer to that is no, because whenever I think I've figured out a style, I change it, whether that's like how my delivery is, how much I'm on camera, what kind of cameras I'm using. The best answer would probably be sometime when I was in Buffalo. Okay, here it is. When I was in Buffalo, there was a story about like the Methodist Church or something splitting, and they were gonna have multiple factions or whatever. And rather than be like, the Methodist Church is changing its dogma on how it sees God by having a slight schism in their, sect.
Yeah.
Rather than doing something like that, I was in a Methodist church. I was in the middle aisle, and I was like, the Methodist church is separating into two different factions on the right hand, and then like I pop up and I'm on screen. They believe in blah blah blah, and then I go back to the middle guy, but on the left hand, and then I pop up on screen. It's like they believe this thing.
Yeah.
And so it's three of me all on camera. And that's like a more hard story, or more like, especially to Methodists and Christians, that's like super important. They're like a new sect of Methodist is coming out or whatever. And I think it was Methodist.
New religion just dropped. That's exciting.
A little bit, right? Yeah. But it's like a little harder of a story, and there's three of me talking to myself. Yeah, right?
It softens it a little bit, right? You're still giving them exactly what the facts are of it, but it sort of does so in a maybe more entertaining way, maybe definitely a less serious tone, even though it's still the same information. So I think that's cool. We talked about this a little bit before we went live, I think, about how you have to wear a lot of hats now in journalism, especially where it's like you're maybe finding the stories a lot of the times, writing the stories, going and reporting, and then filming, editing, all this stuff. Were you big into YouTube? Are you big into YouTube? Do you watch a lot of YouTube? Did you have to watch like tutorials on how to like edit your own videos and light scenes and stuff like that? Or?
I almost never light scenes.
Okay.
I might have a top light on my camera, but oftentimes I don't even use a light really.
Yeah.
Whenever I have questions, I'll always like go to YouTube University, right? That's like, I don't know if you've heard that term before.
Yeah.
I like that term, and I just learn how to do whatever I need to do.
Yeah.
And Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of different things. It's practice. I like watch what other people are doing, and I'm like, how can I copy that?
Yeah.
Or like, I like that idea. I'm gonna steal that idea, and I like what this person's doing. I'm gonna steal their idea. I wouldn't say I'm big into YouTube. I'm like an average YouTube consumer, right?
Gotcha.
But when I was in like 6th grade, I definitely made YouTube videos with my friends.
Oh yeah.
You know,
as you should.
You know, you throw on the photo booth camera, right, and just hit record.
Oh yeah.
You know, and then you're just doing something stupid with your friends.
Yeah, dude. I hope that no one ever finds. I think I have like a DS somewhere, a Nintendo DS that has some.
You filmed on a Nintendo DS?
Dude, I filmed on anything. I had this one, like, I think my parents got us like a $20, it was like a recorder, some sort of video recorder. And we really wanted to do stop motion Lego videos, me and my siblings. And we were like, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And then we realized how hard it is
to
make
I was
stop
gonna
motion
say, that's
Lego
a big
videos.
Effort, dude.
And like 6th grade, I was the oldest. So it's a 6th grader, a 4th grader, and a 2nd grader. I'm like, yeah, it's not happening, guys.
Not happening. No way.
Oh.
Did any of those like videos like accidentally pop off though?
No, none of those did.
Okay,
no.
so none of those are like haunting you, or did you do like a cleanse of that and you like deleted it off?
We never. So I had a friend that like uploaded some of the stuff that we did, but I never uploaded anything myself. I did. There is a video that I am ashamed is still on the internet somewhere of me and some of my friends getting ready for a talent show when we were in 8th grade.
Yeah.
And one of my friends, he convinced us to sing this Justin Bieber song with him, which I was into. I'm like, let's do it. It'll be funny, ironic, whatever.
Yeah.
But he kept like insisting that he wasn't a Justin Bieber fan, but the song that we sang was like a deep cut Justin Bieber. Like I don't know the song to this day. I don't even remember the lyrics. Like it's not a popular song of his, but we did like I don't know. We like had taken our shirts off and like as like a promo video for the talent show.
Wow. Yeah.
And then people at this talent show when we were 8th grade were chanting to take our shirts off, and I was like, yeah, we might have messed up
because that was probably like the Biebs with like the hair, you know.
Oh yeah, we all had in some capacity, right? So it was it was rough. But yeah, luckily none of those.
What's that video called?
I don't know. It's on one of my friends'
he
Facebook
says,
somewhere.
I don't know. Just gotta scroll deep enough and you'll find it.
It's not deleted. It's someone tagged me in it somewhere. It's not good. What was like maybe your first bigger story that gained a decent amount of traction where you noticed like a difference in like maybe an uptick, or maybe someone internally was like, yo, James, this is like doing really well.
A story down in Lake Geneva. On Geneva Lake. Don't call it Lake Geneva. Lake Geneva it's Geneva Lake for the people who are doing that wrong. Have you heard of the mailboat carriers?
Yeah.
I did a story on, and that's like, people know about the mailboat carriers. This isn't new to anybody. It's kind of one of those stories that the news covers like every year. Like, hey, it's another sign that summer's starting. Mailboat carrying is starting. You know, 16-year-olds are hopping off boats, delivering mail, and it's kind of funny. Yeah. And I just did a story, but I did it in a different way, basically, and it popped off. It got like 5 million views on TikTok. I don't remember how many it got on Instagram.
TikTok loves those boats, dude. I see a video at least every year, maybe twice a year, of those boats on TikTok with millions of views.
Well, and then that video got stolen as it happens in the internet. They stole it, then somebody reposted it, and it came up on my feed. And I was like, wait, this looks familiar. Yeah. And I don't care enough to be like, hey, take this down. This isn't yours. Yeah. But it was kind of flattering, and it was doing really well too.
Yeah. Did they do that? This was like a not an I made it moment, but a similar thing that happened with us. We've had some videos go viral, and they'll take the video and they'll crop it to one side, and they'll put like slime or like some brain rot shit to the other side. And when that happened, that first time I saw that happen in one of my videos, I was like, I made it. Yeah. This is awesome. Although, I wasn't even mad that they stole it.
You're like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
you know?
I was like, this is hilarious.
Although I hate when I see those videos on my feed, because that's the definition of brain rot to me. Or if it's like Temple Run or something, or Subway Surfer, I'm like, I got to get off this thing. Like, this is bad, dude.
I'm glad you said Temple Run first and not Subway Surfers, because Temple Run is the OG.
Temple Run is OG, without a doubt. Yeah, that was such a good game.
Such a good game at the time, dude. That broke my brain that it just could never end, and I was.
You just go,
I didn't even have an iPod, but I would try to like almost like people like bum like nicotine off other people. At the time, dude, I was like, yo, let me get a hit of that Temple Run, bro.
Have you seen the videos though? People make those videos. They're like, yo, bro, can I bum run real quick? And a guy will be like, here's a cigarette. And he's like, no, let me get a scroll.
Yeah, I have seen those. Yes, I have seen those, dude. It's crazy. Yeah, we are badly addicted to these phones.
That's one of my New Year's resolutions. quit with the screen time.
Really?
I have a lock on my phone that I've had for a year, but it's so easy to bypass. It's like, hey, you've reached your limit.
Yeah.
And I just hit, give me another 15.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
I'm ashamed of it. I hate it.
Yeah.
But I want to use my phone way less. And it's funny because I'm the guy making social media content.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I gotta do this less. We all need to do it less.
Yeah.
Because it's just like a brain suck, you know?
It is. You don't even realize how much time you waste. I have the same thing. Like I lock my like Instagram and Twitter together, only 15 minutes a day.
Yep.
But like on a day like today, like if I have someone come in and I'm talking to them through Instagram, I have to like keep ignoring it. I'm like, yo, give me 15 more minutes. And I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, I love it. My brain loves it. I'm like, yeah, I get a couple more scrolls in between.
It's that serotonin. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
it's so good. But you don't even remember the video you watched this morning.
No, none of them. Very rare.
My girlfriend watched. I was like, what video you're watching? I heard it, and she's like, oh, I don't remember. And then she scrolled back a little, and she was like, oh, it's just like a giraffe giving birth. And I was like, dude, we have the technology to just casually watch a giraffe giving birth and then completely forget about it.
Yeah.
And that's like a crazy thing. Like if somebody 70 years ago saw that video, they'd be like, I will never forget the moment that I saw that. I can't believe we can, capture this and the educational purposes and everybody can watch it. And it's just like, no, scroll right past.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Next thing. I'm on to the next one.
Yeah.
It's funny now too, there's all the dialogue around like the TikTok ban, like is it going to happen? Will it get postponed, whatever. And I've been seeing people post about it, and I'm in the same boat where it's like, dude, I have thousands of videos like bookmarked on TikTok because I'm like, oh, I got to show this to someone or I want to remember this for later that I've never once gone back to.
No, dude.
But I got sad, and it was like I'm seeing all these posts where like people being sad over the thousands of videos they have bookmarked that they were never going to look at when TikTok gets deleted. And it's like, fuck.
We're just like Gollum. We need like my precious.
Yeah,
we just gotta like hoard it, dude.
Yeah, I don't. It's sad. It really is sad. Okay, so 2025, you want to use the phone less.
Yes.
What's something that maybe reporting wise or from a journalistic standpoint that you want to spend more time with in 2025?
Good question.
Are there any kinds of stories, kinds of people that you would like to spend some more time with?
I think I do a pretty good job, honestly. I go in with a pretty solid intention of trying to give all races, genders, ethnicities, religions their time, you know? Maybe somebody out there's going to be like, hey, Jim, no, you didn't cover that. I try to do my best to cover everybody and every single type of story. However, I was talking to one of my producers, and I was like, because he writes the show Milwaukee Tonight, and we were like, let's do more different religions, because it's like a fun, positive series or show that goes every week. And we just did we did like obviously like a lot of Christmas content,
sure,
but then we did Hanukkah, and there was a really good reaction to us doing this like live shot and interviews at a Hanukkah celebration. And it's like, let's do more like different religions holidays,
kind of just show what people have going on for all these different religions.
That's super important. There's Buddhists here, there's Muslims here, there's like all sorts of different kind of people. So like let's talk to them and show what they're doing, because they are just as important of a part of our community as anybody else.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good good looking forward into 2025. I think that'd be exciting. What's the most fulfilling part been so far of your job over these years?
Getting to tell the like trust that people give me to tell their story, their most intimate moment, and be like, yeah, James will do a good job of this. And then them telling me in like an email, James, you captured it perfectly. I couldn't have done it any better. I wouldn't want it any other way. Thank you so much. You did such a great job with the story. Whether it's about a former gang member who went to prison and now he's trying to rehabilitate his life and give back to the community, a mother who has multiple kids with a neurological disorder. So it's like, how is this family coping with 3 kids with the same neurological disorder? That's one is completely immobile. And then there was like a couple of other issues with the other kids. Somebody about a world record collector, you know, hearing all the types of people being like, you covered it so well. And I just get to, like...
That's gotta feel good, dude.
Yeah, I'm honored to tell these people's stories. That's the coolest thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you were to just give your most personal moment or the thing you're most passionate about, you'd hope that whoever's going to do that story is good and it's going to look nice.
Yeah, there's some pressure in that, man. Like,
There's
that's
a lot of pressure.
They're putting a lot on you that it's like, if you were to showcase it in a way that maybe didn't do so, didn't highlight it in the best possible way, that could really be hurtful.
Yeah, and then they'll hold on to that forever because while people don't watch the news that much, it is still a huge deal for people to be on it. Like, because we still think about it as like, oh my gosh, holy shit, we made it to the news. Yeah. Like, that's wild. We're on the news. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure people feel really good and they feel honored and the story is exactly what they want it to be. So it's just like the fact that they trust me, and for the most part, they say I do a good job at it.
Do you think is that the hardest part of what you do, is making sure that you handle these stories with care, or is there something else what would you say is the most difficult?
That's probably the hardest part, because that's such a broad thing. It's like, well, it goes into the interviewing, it goes how do I write it, how do I edit it, how do I film it, so it's like so multifaceted. That's probably the most difficult thing, or just like finding story ideas sometimes can be difficult. And then telling people no.
What do you tell people no about?
If I can't do their story.
Oh, okay. People reach out to you wanting you to do stories.
Yeah, we get PR people, individuals, whatever.
What would be, that's something I kind of had for later, but we can get into it now. So we have a lot of artists, creatives, even business owners that are either come on the show, watch the show, whatever. Yeah. How would you recommend them go about getting their stories out there, whether it's through your news organization or another news organization? What is the best practice?
So I would say first, if you are a musician, look up, and it's not just to give myself clicks, but it's like look up James Groh, TMJ4 musician, and see what kind of stories I've covered or what other news organizations have covered. And then you're like, okay, so this is what's getting the attention of people, right? You got to remember the context that story's filmed in, because a COVID story is different from a post-COVID story. And then try to think like, what makes me different? If you are a rapper and you want a story done, every rapper is like, you know, my beats are the best. I've got the best lyrics,
we interview them all.
Yeah, right? Like, or if you're a painter, it's like, you know, my paintings just like are exquisite and they're able to highlight nature, or that it's like touching on the abstract nature of this social issue, blah, 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 in a way. Every artist is doing something different and unique. I think my art is super dope. I wouldn't do a story on my art. And so it's like, what makes yours truly unique and different from everybody else, and why should all these other people care? Because overall, everybody can be a musician nowadays with, like, you got some sort of DAW, right? And then anybody can record really easily.
I mean, there's kids on TikTok making full-on songs just off their phone.
On GarageBand, dude.
You got GarageBand. They got BandLab now on the phone. People are using Apple headphones, making great songs.
So prove to me why you are different.
Yeah.
What is actually super unique? Is it like music? Okay, so let's take Ike Winter, the wood artist. I don't know if you've seen him in Milwaukee. He makes he could just make any wood art, right? There's a million wood artists out there. But what he does is he specifically goes out and finds wood on the side of the street. He goes dumpster diving for wood to use in his pieces. So he's very like environmentally friendly. He doesn't use any like he's not using like toxic stains or toxic paint. He's like, I find the wood.
He's not going cutting down new trees. He's taking trees that have already been.
Literally a pallet or a dresser that's on the side of the road. He takes that and then he makes beautiful art out of it. And he's also like, he will wait until he finds that perfect shade of purple for his art, because he's so determined to not, like, you know, use these toxic things. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. There's your, like, I don't know, there's your twist or your angle. That's like, that's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because you could make birdhouses or you could carve a bear totem any day. That happens all the time. I just need something more.
Yeah, no, that's something. So we have a lot of musicians that come on the podcast, and a lot of times, especially a lot of rappers will come on and they'll just be like, yeah, I got the new album out. It's awesome. Check it out, whatever. And, you know, sometimes we'll throw in topical stuff, other hip hop things, try to like have some fun and joke with them, and they really won't be about it. And I've talked about this before on the show, so I don't really care that I'm saying it. But it's like people, I always explain to them, like, dude, if you're fun for an hour, people are way more likely, because they like you, they're interested in you, to listen to, oh, well, what is the kind of music that this guy makes then, or this girl makes, right? And as opposed to, so it's sort of a similar thing. It's like there has to be a story there, because everybody can do the thing.
Give me something, because you're right. Everybody can. There's a million painters out there, million guitarists out there. what makes your guitar playing different? I did a story on a guitarist, Kevin Lowe, who's won tons of international classical guitar awards.
Yeah.
Boom, I'll do that story.
Yeah.
He's like a vetted dude who's an amazing guitarist, right? Like, he is certifiably great at what he does.
Yeah.
But then just like the person who loves to practice in their room is like, I'm a great guitarist and I just put out a new album. I'm a guitarist. I put out an album and I'm not doing a story on me.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
give me
something,
more.
man. Yeah. Give me some. Okay,
you really got to
give me some
sell
spice.
yourself because you're selling yourself against everybody else.
Yeah. And I imagine you get a lot of people that submit too.
All the time.
A lot of people that are asking for stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I think probably you as well as the rest of the news want good stories. So it's like, please keep sending them, but you got to advocate for yourself in a way that makes sense for me too.
A lot of theater programs will reach out to me because I've often talked about how I used to be a theater kid, so I put it on the news whenever I do theater related stories.
Yeah.
But if you're just doing a production of The Wizard of Oz, what's different about it, right? So one time I did a story about an 8th grader who was directing a play because they couldn't find a director to film their school or to direct their school play. I was like, that's wild.
badass.
Like, an 8th grader did it?
Yeah.
Like, they decided they didn't want to act in it, but they wanted to direct it, and it's like a full-fledged production. Like, that's cool. That's different. Find me that story.
Yeah. Yeah. That's insane. That makes a lot of sense. I feel like that's a great way of putting it too for people that so people that are listening, artists, business owners, friends, check that out. That's a good way to think of it as you're trying to get maybe some new PR. Yeah. What if a reporter did a story on you in your life? What do you hope that the headline would be?
Wow, what a good question, dude. That's a solid question.
Is it okay?
What would my headline be? Oh my!
What would you hope it would be? What would you hope it would be?
Man, I would hope it was just something like I've got to just like talk this one out.
Yeah,
like,
no,
reporter knows no bounds, does anything for the story, or like reporter will gladly put himself in harm's way to have a fun story, or like reporter's curiosity brings him to the craziest places where he lives.
Yeah.
Something along those lines, where it's like, wow, he's really trying to cover every single type of story, and it's like, how does he come up with these? Where is he finding these ideas? And why is he doing the things he does?
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's a good answer. I think that'd be a cool headline.
What would your headline be? If I were to do a story on you, just on your life, what would the headline be?
Just okay. Probably something like that, dude. I'm all right at everything.
Who's clicking on that, man?
Yeah, no one. Probably.
I gotta make that a little more
Yeah.
interesting.
We gotta
you know?
find
we gotta
something
zhuzh it
better.
up.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm trying. Podcaster. Podcaster says.
Day in the life of another dude with a podcast.
Yeah, maybe we should just forget the podcast. Let's just go music. I don't know. People. I get most of the time people are looking up like my hair tutorials, which I wish I took better care of my hair, but that was maybe something with that. I don't know. I'd have to do more research on myself to figure that one out. But
dude,
I'll start thinking about it.
Okay, start thinking about it. Okay.
Yeah, I'll start thinking about it. You know, I gotta do some more things. That I think you do music as well. How do you square you ask tons of people about their own art and their own music? Do you have like great answers in your head for like if someone were to ask you things about them because you've thought about it? How do you square that in your head?
Ask me a question.
Okay. Who are some of your musical inspirations?
I think that is I'm gonna be honest, a little bit of truth. I think that's such a boring question.
It is a boring question.
Who cares about my but my musical inspirations, there's like Andre Nicotina, E40, the Doobie Brothers. I love like FKJ. Who else would be up there?
How would you describe your music to somebody that hasn't heard it?
All over the place.
Okay.
That's how I'd say it. My music is whatever I'm feeling at that time that I want to create. I create that song. If I want to create a weird, goofy house track, I do it. If I want to create like a hip hop song, there was a song that I was like, I love the song Black Skinhead by Kanye West.
Yeah.
And I tried to like kind of recreate that like drum pattern and everything and create something with a similar vibe.
Yeah.
If I want to do like a cheesy acoustic guitar Jack Johnson love song, I'll do that. It's whatever I'm feeling, man.
I always say, when people ask me that question, I always say it's just, I feel like I try to be honest with myself, and it's same thing. It's all over the place, and I'd say my music is just like me with a beat underneath it. Like it's whatever I can whatever I'm feeling, and there's
Yeah.
music that accompanies that. Okay, what? Yeah, dude, I don't know what I would say though for a headline of myself. Like I don't know.
It's tough. It's also tough to think about yourself in that respect, right?
Yeah.
Because normally you'd have like a story about your whole life is different. What would people say? What's the musician's headline if they were doing a story? Rolling Stone doing a story on you. What's that headline Rolling Stone is doing about you, the musician?
What are they doing? Probably something about my. I don't know what the headline would say. I have something about self-sufficiency. I mean, I do everything myself.
It's okay to brag.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people all the time in my
Yeah.
interviews because we all want to be humble.
Yeah.
We all don't want to sound like an arrogant jackass.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
that
I mean,
dude
I'm good at that
sucks.
sometimes.
No, but like, what would they say? Would they say like, dude is breaking the boundaries of how to make local music in Milwaukee, or like?
Well, I mean,
what would they say?
Yeah, I mean, I own my own media company, so I do everything myself. I mix, master, write, record all my own music. I put it out under myself. I perform with a live band as opposed to like just doing backing tracks. Like, and I don't play an instrument. As it stands right now, it's a goal of mine, 2025, to maybe get started. But I never played an instrument professionally. Like,
What do you do? You just like move things around on like
on
like
the DAW,
Final
yeah.
Cut?
So I use FL or Reason or Logic, and like piano roll. I mean, a lot of like
shit.
starting with a lot of loops and then building on top of those.
He's like,
and
that sounds good. That doesn't sound good. And
there's
you're like,
cheat codes. You watch Internet
Yeah.
Money on YouTube, and they teach you about for people that don't know, you can use Ghost Notes on FL Studio specifically. Whatever scale you're in, you can put a sampler track, and it'll highlight. So when you pull up your piano roll now, you'll be able to see any note that should be in key.
So do you know, like, not to put you on the spot, but to put you on the spot, if I was to say, like, what is the, like, how is a scale formed in terms of, like, half and whole steps? Do you know that?
Like steps on the piano? Yeah.
Like half. What it would be half.
Like a half step is like the next
Yeah, but do you
key.
know, like, the major scale? It's like half, whole.
Oh, I know them when I look at it. Yeah, I know
When you
like
look
when
at
I'm
it,
looking
yeah.
at it. Yeah, like I can do like, oh, this is a seventh chord. This
Or
is
if
a
you
fifth.
needed to make a C chord.
Yeah, I could go
you
in there
could
and do
go
that.
C,
Yeah.
E, G.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could go do
Gotcha.
that. Yeah, but I'm not like, and I took a little bit of music theory in college and stuff like that, but I don't. Yeah, not
You're not here like, I'm going to do like,
not Jacob Collier. Or fucking,
dude, that dude's crazy.
yeah, he makes me want to quit music.
Yeah,
all the
you're like,
time.
how the hell do you do it? But you're not doing like, this is a seventh B flat diminished that goes into like, the G with the ninth and all that
No,
stuff.
I've got people when I play like live stuff. My band that we did a big show at Vivarium earlier this year, and like my pianist is like that. Like she's got like a master's degree.
Well, and you need that. You need somebody who's like really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. I don't have that like super in-depth musical theory. If you wanted to talk to me about like the natural harmonic scale and like Ionian versus Mixolydian scale, I couldn't do that shit.
No, yeah.
Too much.
Yeah, I only know the names because I scroll past them on FL
Yeah,
Studio.
you're like,
Yeah,
don't
I'm
want
like,
that one.
That minor.
If that one has an X, not using that one. That's way too intense for me.
Yeah. So no, I mean, I feel like that's kind of impressive though, just being able to do all that without
Hell
it.
yeah.
I mean, that's So I'm just trying to have fun with that, and I mean, I don't as it stands right now, I don't do a lot of stuff with. I'd like to get more involved, like in the scene with like working with other artists and whatnot, but I sort of never really like fit in because I don't. Not to say that everyone does it, but I don't do any drugs. I don't drink. I don't do it, and I own all this stuff myself, so I don't need to pay $100 to go to a studio.
Yep.
So I sort of miss out on some of that.
Sure.
And so I think there's I don't know. I'm lucky, but secluded in a way
What's
too.
your goal with music?
I just want to make. I mean, with all of this, like with music, I just want to make the best album ever, or best song I can make every time I do it. I just hope that my songs are getting better every time I.
Do you want to tour? Do you want?
I would love to tour. Yeah.
So you want to be like a touring musician? You want to be like?
I would. Yes, I guess. Yeah, I would love to be a
that's your
touring
goal.
musician who does albums, who
Gets paid full time to be a musician.
Be a musician, and whether or not that's like, I don't. It doesn't have to be on a super crazy scale. I just want to be able to do that and this and be good.
Yeah.
Be more than good. You know, be able to take care of my family and just make enough. So that would be.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know what the headline would be for that.
My musician goal, I have no desire to be a touring musician.
Okay.
I don't need that in my life. I'm cool just being that guy in his room making music, and he just puts out an album, and that's what it is, and that's where it stays.
Okay. Is it? Do you have an alias? A different
Shifty
alias?
G.
Shifty G.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Spotify, Apple Music, all that stuff.
All of it, yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
The link is on my Instagram. The link is in my Twitter, or at least I say it. I'm all about Shifty G. I talk about Shifty G on the news.
Really?
Yeah. Oh hell
Holy
yeah.
shit.
Because
Do you ever get placements on the news? Have we gotten a sync license? Yeah, a sync placement.
I think actually at one time I did use like a Shifty G beat.
There we go.
Because I was like, well, it's my own beat, so I can use it. Like, it's just not gonna matter.
Yeah.
So
I did the same thing with like YouTube videos. If we're doing like a basketball video,
yeah.
I'm like, well, I don't have like I'm not gonna play the music that's in the gym because I'm gonna copyright it for that. So slap my own stuff.
It's it's fun. I talk about it. I've played my guitar on TV before and that sort of thing. Like, it's fun. I love talking about Shifty G.
Yeah. Do you ever? Well, you don't want to be a touring artist. Is it tough? Like, would you ever do like an interview promoting a Shifty G album if you had one?
Hell yeah, I would, dude.
Have you done one as Shifty G? Is it like an alternate persona,
Shifty
or
G is
just
me.
the name?
Shifty G is just me. That is my name. I got it in high school.
Yeah. Were you Shifty? Did you have a nice hezzy cross?
No. I was soccer and volleyball and theater, so I didn't that hezzy cross, step back, whatever.
Okay.
Just if I'm throwing like a crumpled up piece of paper, then I'll go Kobe.
Yeah.
That's my
That's all you
experience.
need. That's all you need.
No, it was just like I was a little bit of a troublemaker.
Yeah.
And my friend was like, James, you're kind of like, you could put on a great face to parents, but then like once you get past the front door in the kitchen and you talk to the parents, then like there's this other side of you. You're a little shifty, James. There's like two.
But you were the friend that the parents trusted.
Oh, absolutely.
I
was always the one who
awesome.
I would talk to them and be like, oh my gosh, I love these photos. Was this your recent trip to Cancun? Tell me about that.
Yeah.
Because, they have those pictures or whatever. And then my friends would be all hanging out and I'd be talking to the parents for a while.
Yeah. But low key, like you're setting up whatever trouble you guys are going to be able to do because you're building that rapport with the parents. They're not going to suggest it.
Oh, it's fine. They're with James.
Yeah, they're not even going to suspect.
So I was like, James, you're a little shifty.
Yeah.
And then G, because that's my last name, Groh. And I feel like that's a common thing in rap. Like you could hear, I don't know if this is an actual rapper, but if it was like Lil G, now you could imagine that's a rap name.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think that's cool.
Shifty
G. So that's how you got the name. That's pretty legit. That's pretty
legit.
2
albums on Spotify.
Do you ever, when you interview like JP or these like artists that are like kind of catapulting into success and you're doing a story on them, how is that as someone who does make music? I know you're making music in your bedrooms at maybe a different level, whatever, but these guys were doing the same thing 2 months ago.
Oh, it's super cool.
Yeah.
Like I can relate a little bit more to the process and like what inspires them and how do they come up with their songs and what is your process? Is it like JP, he doesn't write anything down really. He just gets into a booth and he's like spitballing and trying to figure out what works.
Scatting, humming stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
That's very much his style versus the person who's like pen and paper, headphones on, lock me in a room, like I'm just writing things down, right?
Yeah.
So I can kind of relate to people on that note. And then I can throw out a couple of key terms. I love throwing out key terms during interviews because then people are like, wait, what?
This guy knows game.
Like if I say daw, you're like, whoa, he knows daw? Like
James knows ball.
Okay, he kind of gets it. Like what else he's saying? Like so it's fun to do those kind of interviews and I love like talking to musicians, artists, because it's if you are a musician or an artist, you're probably like a little weird or you've got something going on. No disrespect to accountants, sorry accountants, but like when you think of like your uptight, just boring person, whatever, like tie and everything, white button down, accountant doesn't allow for as much creativity or freedom, where an artist, it's all about creativity. Right.
Yeah.
And so to have that creative mind, you got to be like a little off kilter. Do you have so many Legos in here?
Yeah.
Little off kilter.
It is.
But that's
it's
awesome,
weird, for
you know?
Sure, yeah.
But that's cool. Like that's so cool. Like I love that for you. You know?
It's a lot. Yeah. It's weird. Yeah. I feel like you got to be a little, maybe not insane, but a little crazy to like, especially if you're putting stuff out too.
More interesting.
Yeah. You got to be like, there's a level of like. There's delusion in there as well as excitement about what it is you're doing, and so I don't know. Yeah, I've noticed that too.
Yeah.
But you get along with a lot of artists, you think?
Always.
That's cool.
And I can also meet anybody on whatever level they're at.
Yeah.
Too. I can do a story with the mayor, and I'm a slightly different person than if I'm doing a story with JP. Than if I'm doing a story with a Guinness World Record collector than if I'm doing a story with, I don't know, somebody who just got out of jail. Like, there's tones you have to approach every story with, and that's the most important thing. Is like each story requires its own cadence, its tone, its own personality, rather than trying to do one size fits all.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a level of emotional intelligence that comes with to be able to do that, right? And I think that's something that sometimes people will criticize people for doing, where it's like you're, I don't, like a chameleon, like socially navigating. But I'd argue that in order to in your case specifically get the story, like get the information I need to get to make this a good story, doing that is necessary.
Yeah. Because if I'm coming at you all stuffy, like, tell me about what inspires you.
Yeah.
You're not gonna like
open up
or warm up to me or whatever.
Yeah.
It changes. It's the same reason why we have formal dress attires, because then everybody, if you're going to a formal event, everybody's wearing something kind of the same. You're expected to have a certain demeanor and like disposition, whereas if it's casual, it's different. Whereas if you're like, no, wear your jerseys to this, like we want to have fun, or it's Hawaiian Day at the office, right?
Yeah.
You're like trying to facilitate a certain culture, and that's totally fine.
Yeah. What I guess do you have what is like your biggest goal for news, for journalism? Is there something that you would love to see yourself doing in the future, this year, whatever?
I'd say my biggest goal is to blow up and act like I don't know nobody.
Yeah?
No, that's kidding. That's a riff-raff reference.
Is it?
Oh, yeah, that went right over your head.
No,
I love that. My brother would get that. I'll be
Riff-raff.
like, hey, Tom, watch this part. This is hilarious.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you did the riff-raff thing.
Okay. Shout out, Tom.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
What's my biggest goal
Yeah.
in news and everything? It's just to make people feel heard and to continue telling these stories. And I'm never scared I'll run out of ideas, or there'll be things where the well just dries up. It is just continue to tell, like, to make people feel heard. That's your really nice answer. And I wholeheartedly believe that, and that is what motivates me.
Yeah.
On a selfish level, I want to win an Emmy. Like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
And I want to win a national award. I've won regional awards.
Yeah. How do we do that? What are the steps?
I film really good stories and then submit them, and pay
okay.
all the money that you have to do to submit it. We'll see. I always say this: if you win an award, like an Emmy or a Murrow, those are like the two big ones. If you win that, you're like, hell yeah, my story was so good. Like, I did that. If you lose one, you're like, the judging process is totally rigged. It's politicized, you know. They're watching so many other stories that they all just blend in together. It doesn't even matter. The judging process is rigged.
Yeah.
That's what you say if you're a loser. And if you're a winner, you say the other. And I've been on both sides of the coin, and I've said both things.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to admit that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's good too. I mean, it's good that your first answer was what it was. You know, that's like the real thing. But there is still like, especially when you create stuff and put stuff out there, there's definitely like a drive for some sort of validation. Like, I'm doing a good job, right? But I think it's definitely important to like look at that as like, there's a rapper Russ that I really enjoy some of his interviews. Yeah. He talks about like those are like the sprinkles on the top of the cake, right? It's like the stories that you covered to get there and all the people's lives that you highlighted or changed in a good way for the better. Like, the doing is what you love, it seems like, from talking to you. Yeah. And those would just be like the frosting on top, like the icing on the cake.
I don't do it for the awards, but the award would be not. Who would say no to an award? Like, what would your ultimate goal as a musician be? Anything in the world.
I honestly think if I would love to tour. I would just love to tour with my friends and feel like I could make music whenever I want. I'm gonna go play it, and people are gonna love it.
Let's go bigger. Are we talking Shank Hall venues? Are we talking arenas? Are we talking stadiums? Like, what would you want?
I would love to do stadiums for sure. I'd love to be there one day.
There we go.
I don't need, but the Grammys and things like that, like that's not something that I would necessarily specifically want. Like, I don't think.
But a sold out stadium tour.
A sold out stadium tour.
Be badass, dude. Absolutely. And that's what I asked people. I was like, no. Don't give me the, like, I just want to be able to tour with my friends and make money. No, go big. Yeah. That's cool.
Well, I would love to be the #1 artist in the world.
And
have my podcast be in the top 10 at the same time.
Hell yeah.
I think that would be, because I didn't get, I'm not, you know, a lot of times the biggest podcasts in the world, they're all celebrities that then started a podcast.
Yes.
Even Joe Rogan, who people love to claim is, it's like, okay, he was still a host on Fear Factor and a well-known established comedian in LA.
Yes.
Who, you know, whatever. I started podcasting in my mom's basement with like my coworkers on my show. If I could be this massive figure, in both fields, and I did it
Yeah.
from nothing. Like it wasn't. There's no.
That's sick.
You know, that would be super cool.
That's super cool. I like that answer.
That's
Don't
what
give
I
me,
would
Don't
want.
give me the, I just want a tour.
I still do want to do that.
Course,
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
But like, you know, that's your first answer.
Yeah.
And then the second answer
one, yeah.
is I want
yeah.
stadium tours.
That's the one I write in the journal.
If
yeah.
you could headline any festival, what would it be?
Headline any festival? I mean, I haven't been to many festivals. I've only been to like Summerfest. So I mean, headlining Summerfest would be cool.
Okay.
Maybe Lollapalooza would be cool.
Lala would be cool.
Yeah, I think that's probably. I mean, I don't. Yeah, there's not like a specific festival. What about you?
It would be Outside Lands. So Outside
that?
Lands is in San Francisco in Golden Gate
Ooh,
Park.
Yeah.
It's because I'm from the Bay Area, so that would be like the homecoming kind of thing.
Yeah.
That would be pretty badass.
Have you been to? Isn't Joshua Tree in California? Too?
Southern California.
Where do they? What isn't there a festival they do out that way too?
Coachella.
Yeah.
But that's in Coachella Valley, which is like a little outside of LA.
Coachella would be cool.
Mhm.
Coachella would be cool to do too. I just see people's outfits every year. I don't actually like follow. Much of the
Coachella's
music.
like that. Like now, it's just like riddled with influencers.
It's just the Instagram one, yeah. But it would be cool for the
Still
IG.
badass. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'd wear something ridiculous.
Well, you have to. You can't just come up in a white T-shirt. You know?
I think I'd come up in like I'd probably just come out like in an aluminum condom, just wearing that. Just wear that.
That's
and then some glasses.
Red Hot Chili Peppers esque.
Yeah,
because they had the show where they
did.
came out with the tube socks on.
Yes. Yeah.
Just the tube socks.
Didn't they get fined for that though?
I don't know. But we're here talking about them, and they're still kicking ass. So
I would take the fine.
I would take the fine for that. Yeah.
When I saw I don't know if you know who Bobby Lee and Andrew Santino are.
I know
comedians.
Bobby Lee. Yeah.
They were here for I think last year or a year and a half ago maybe for their Bad Friends podcast. They were touring. They did the Riverside, and I guess they got in a bunch of trouble because the couple of shows prior, Bobby Lee kept showing his ass to the crowd, and so they were getting fined like $10,000 every time he was doing it. And one of my friends ended up like. I don't know how she did it. She got on stage that night.
Wow.
Sort of almost forcefully got herself on stage. And to avoid getting sued or getting a fine or whatever, instead of showing us his ass when she like got this question wrong, where he put his ass on her.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I would do that. I don't know if I like my fans that much, but maybe if I was at that level.
At that level, then you can do things. Yeah, certain levels of fame afford you more like things to do like that.
Yeah. What's an interview? Is there anybody, like the biggest interview you would love to do, or a story on somebody like, you know, for an example, right? Like let's say like Biden had some weird thing that he was into on the side, which I'm sure he does.
Yeah.
You know, but like he had some weird, like who is someone that you would love to do like maybe a weird quirky story on that is huge?
I've never thought about that, and I would absolutely love to do a president like Biden or Trump, just because I feel like I want to get like a different side of them.
Yeah. Like Trump's favorite bagel or whatever.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
whatever
Although maybe they're too media like friendly and aware and conscious where they're not going to play into that.
Yeah.
I wonder what it'd be like to interview Kanye.
Yeah.
That would be wild. I just feel like he's gotten a little more unhinged.
Yeah, I think it would be hard. I mean, I'm sure
it might be hard to keep him
Yeah.
in. Same with like Tyler the Creator, because Tyler the Creator, you could go like he could derail it just given who he is, right? He's that like weird out there guy.
Yeah.
But I did see a video where a guy was matching his energy and it worked really well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because Kanye's one that would be hard. Kanye's hard because sometimes you see people interview him, and especially when it's like more of a podcast where like the hosts like here like I have my own opinions. Like I'm not just gonna let you say whatever.
Yeah.
But then they do just let him go because he's Kanye, and you're like, you gotta
stop him, reel it in,
bring it. Like he just said 4 different points going different way. Can we just?
That's a good point. Maybe that would be too much. And Kanye is such a strong force. I'd probably be a little nervous interviewing him. I wouldn't know what to do, so maybe that wouldn't be the best one. I'm gonna have to come back to that one.
Yeah.
Who would you who's your goal? Like if you could interview anybody on this podcast?
I would love to interview. I think Doja Cat would be really fun.
Doja Cat would be cool.
I think she would be like a good podcast
She'd be
guest in
fun.
general. So even if someone who wasn't very good, I think I'd get a good interview out of her.
Yep.
I do think Drake would be fun to interview. He seems like he's pretty go with the flow too. I'm trying to think though, who's someone that would be kind of like interesting to get some weird stuff out of. I wanted to do Jay Cutler for the longest time as a Bears fan, and now he has a podcast and he's kind of got some interesting thoughts. So I don't know that I would do that, but maybe like a Tom Brady or someone like that, like someone who's like Tom Brady's pretty, you know, straight faced dude, whatever. But like to get him and like fuck with him a little bit and
would be
like
fun.
just to hear like what did you dislike about these players, or
Yeah,
like what,
yeah.
because he took everything so seriously,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that I can definitely relate to. Like I played
Yep.
college basketball, and I had
Mm-hmm.
teammates that
Mm-hmm.
didn't care, that were way more talented than me, and
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
all these other things. So like getting to talk with him on that from a more comedic lens, I think would be really fun.
Like Will Ferrell could be cool too.
Will Ferrell
I
would
feel
be
like you
great.
could do both. You could have a little more serious. You could also have a little bit more like goofy, and he'd play it along.
Yeah, Will Ferrell would be fun. Oh, Adam Sandler. Yeah,
Adam Sandler would be cool.
that's one of my favorite people ever, I think.
Yeah.
So if I could interview him or Jon
Great
Stewart,
dude.
that would be fun to hang out
Jon
with.
Stewart would be cool.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'd love to
I
hang
agree
out
with
him.
that.
Okay, yeah. Now I got this short. I gotta like write this somewhere so I can like keep this
Manifest
in
it.
mind. Yeah,
Mhm.
these people would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What is there anything we didn't get to? I know we're just over the hour mark now.
Yeah.
Is there anything we didn't get to today that you want us to put out into the world right now? I don't know when the last time you did a podcast was, or when the next time you will be. What should we touch on?
It's funny. That's the same question I always ask people. I say, we've just about wrapped up, but is there anything I haven't asked you, or anything else you think is important to mention?
So am I doing okay? I
You're
don't
doing
have a
great, dude.
journalism.
No, you're
I have a
doing
degree
great.
in marketing. So
Yeah,
it's
and you started the interview before we even began. You're like, is there anything you specifically want to talk about, or you want to play? I do the same thing. I always ask, like, what do
Okay.
you specifically want to talk about, if
Cool.
there is. So it's just funny to like
receive it, yeah.
Like, damn. Okay.
well, that's
Um,
it's good to know you do that,
that's
because
good.
I've done other people's shows,
Mhm,
and these people, good people sometimes, but sometimes I feel like I'm like, oh man, like we're not ready, like they're not ready, and they're like, maybe it's their second or third podcast, and they're a friend of mine. I'm trying to help them out, and so I'll like have to like really do a bunch, but that's
Yeah,
good. That
yeah.
means I'm
I like
doing
it.
okay.
No, that is every journalist. It's supposed to be every journalist's last question, because then you never know if somebody says like some really weird shit, or they're like, hey, did you know about this, or like, actually, we didn't talk about this.
Yeah, or if there was anything I said during it that made you think of something, and then I never asked you about it, just to let you give me whatever you
just
want.
Go. Gosh, no, I could just like espouse some random shit and be like, I could get on my news soapbox. I could get on Shifty G soapbox. I could talk about like the importance, or like how terrible Feanor was in the Lord of the Rings lore, and how he created this like huge downfall. That was what all the Silmarillion was about.
Are you big Lord of the Rings guy?
I'm getting way bigger into Lord of the Rings.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I just watched it honestly, I'd seen it when I was a kid,
yeah.
loosely, pieces on TV, but I watched it in its entirety, the extended editions, for the
Good.
first time last year.
Dude, you need to watch it like 17 more times now.
I'm not gonna. I think Star Wars is better still.
Well, I mean, okay, you know what? I'm okay with that, because especially looking around this place and seeing boxes and boxes of Star Wars Legos, I
Dude,
get that.
the Lord of the Rings Lego sets though are crazy.
Really cool. Really cool.
I want those very badly, very
Mhm.
badly. But I just. So can you sell me on Lord of the Rings real quick? Because my issue, not my issue, it was still a fun watch.
Yeah.
But like it just felt like, and maybe this is the way that it's based off the story it's written. Like Star Wars is like a family story. There's like I can like see the arcs of characters. For this movie, it just was kind of like Frodo and Sam they should be together. I think also they should be gay.
Yeah.
But they're just on a totally different side quest from everybody else, and everybody's just like, it was just a lot of destiny.
Yep.
And it didn't feel like the characters made a lot of choices. Am I off?
I would totally disagree with it.
Okay.
Well, so some it is destiny, like, hey, Frodo, the ring was chosen to you, but it's up to you to decide to do with the time that you have what you want, right?
Okay.
So there is that moment where it's like, the ring was destined to you. Will you,
Yes.
take on that burden, right? Then you could get into this whole like, well, then was everything predetermined? And then we're getting a predetermination conversation, and then we're gonna go super far off the rails.
Yeah.
I think what it's about is like the incredible lore and the backstory to all of this, where everything has like a super strong history. There's really strong ties to all the characters, and then I personally love that like kind of medieval fantasy, orcs, elves, swords, bows.
The world itself is awesome.
The world building, I like. What I think is really cool too is how it's like multiple different like races, elves, orcs, men, all coming together to like try to defeat the orcs and Sauron and establish order back within the world, right?
Yeah.
And I like how there's these like all these different storylines that kind of converge to make to like culminate in the big ending, right?
Yeah.
I can totally understand the issue with like, well, some of it seemed a little separate, and some of it seemed like a Like it was all just happening, and there's not as much of a character development, right?
I still thought they were fun movies. I still liked them. It just felt like when I was comparing, because my whole life people are like, "Oh, dude, if you love Star Wars, like Lord of the Rings is it's whatever. It's just they're both right there." And I watched it, and I was just like, it feels a little bit more like and then like it's like this thing happened, this thing's gonna happen, and then this thing's gonna happen, and then this thing's gonna happen. Whereas like Star Wars, at least even the shit people hate about Star Wars, like the prequels, like Qui-Gon dies, and therefore Obi-Wan has to become Anakin's master, and therefore Anakin slips to the dark side, and therefore this thing happened. Like, whereas I don't know, maybe I just don't understand Lord of the Rings enough. I only saw it the one time, so maybe that's why.
And Lord of the Rings, the movie, you lose a lot of like the mysticism and the fantasy from the books. That makes a difference. But then I feel like that, well, you need to read the books because the books are better than the movie, blah blah blah. I don't want to get into. I don't want to be that guy. You mentioned the prequels.
Yeah,
I love Jar Jar, dude.
I never had a problem with.
I love Phantom Menace. That movie's sick. Pod racing,
really?
Amazing. Darth Maul, badass. Qui-Gon, sick.
I loved that movie growing up, and that was the only one we didn't have on. So we had all of them on VHS, or no, we had 2 and 3 on DVD, and our DVD for 1 like didn't work for the longest time in my life. So whenever we got episode 1 to work, I was so pumped, dude.
Yeah.
And Jar Jar, I never had a problem with Jar Jar.
People always shit on that movie, and I'm like, no, Phantom Menace is sick.
And also, don't you think, I was just talking about this the other day with a friend, is people bitch, and I wasn't there when it came out, so I mean I was alive, but I wasn't like anticipating it. Like, people shit on the politics of it, and like them explaining for like 5 minutes in the beginning of why we're fighting. But then if you like fast forward, like one of the biggest critiques of the newer ones is like, why are they fighting? We have no idea why they're fighting. We have no idea how this happened.
Pick one, guys.
Like,
pick a complaint.
Yeah.
And so I think the politics is interesting.
It's important.
Like, and like the subversion and the different tactics that you have going on. And that's like how really things would happen, is that it's like the politics and people trying to deceive another person. And it's like the cloak and dagger, which is kind of cool, right? Rather than just like your classic like Marvel, like bad guy, heroes, fight, right? There's got to be something more to it, you know?
Yeah, I loved Phantom Menace, and I think Liam Neeson was Qui-Gon Jinn. That's got to be one of the sickest castings ever.
Great.
One of the most expensive castings ever,
really?
too. I don't know if you know this. They had to rebuild, I forget what percentage of the sets, because they didn't account for how tall he is.
Damn. Okay.
So, like, they had to, like, reconstruct, because they still filmed, a lot of people, again, complain that the prequels were so much CGI, but Episode 1 actually has, like, the most miniatures of any film.
Okay.
And Qui-Gon, like, I don't know, I guess specifically they still had so many on-site, like, real locations for that movie, and because of how tall Liam Neeson is, I guess
how tall is he?
I think he's like 6'3" or 6'4", maybe.
That's not tall enough for me to be like, oh, we gotta rebuild the set.
I guess most actors are like 5'8" to 5'10".
Is that a thing?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Like
Like Zac Efron is like 5'8" or 5'9".
But what about like Bradley Cooper? That guy's got to be.
Let's see, Bradley Cooper height.
I'm guessing 6, flat 6.
I'm guessing 6'1".
Okay.
Okay, let's see Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
Unless this is just like, it was his, yeah, he is 6'4".
Okay. I mean, that's tall.
It's tall.
But not like, we're going to have to, millions of dollars are going to go into this.
I don't know who they cast first. Maybe they cast Ewan first and everybody else, and everyone else is under 6 foot. And they were like, shit, we built this wrong.
Yeah, and now we got to change it up.
Yeah.
Do we need to bring this back on
Lord of the Rings?
Or no, I was going to say back on whatever train we were on before we got into Lord of the Rings.
No, I do want, I actually, give me like your, that we can wrap after this.
Yeah.
Give me your like bite-sized pitch on why someone should get into Lord of the Rings. Why should I go all in on Lord of the Rings?
Oh, my friend's going to watch this and be like, James, you did a shitty job on pitching it.
Okay.
It is and this is going to sound like every other fucking movie ever made.
Okay.
So first of all, beautiful lore, beautiful world building.
100% agree.
That like the intricacies of the like interactions and relationships between all the characters is so incredible. And having so many different like well thought out races and groups of like beings is really cool to me. It is like one of the greatest iterations of a story of like, underdog beats, the big dog. Like it's an underdog. I don't know. It's not an underdog story. It is where like against insurmountable odds, it was the smallest people, like the hobbits, conquering the biggest, issue and fright and most powerful being in the world, and it's like the strongest things can come from the smallest people. And so that is a million different books and movies and TV shows and tales ever told.
Yeah.
Right. But I think it was just like beautifully done, and I think like you have to love fantasy. If you don't love fantasy, you're not gonna love it, because if you don't love like weird like tentacle creatures coming out of the water and fighting and balrogs and weird mystical creatures, you're just never gonna love it. One of my best friends, I'm never gonna try to get him to watch Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Not him. If you love like crazy fantasy mystical things, amazing lore, and just like one of the most well-crafted stories of all time about, you know, overcoming insurmountable odds, Lord of the Rings is
Lord
for
of
you.
the Rings is for you. Fair. I respect that.
Thank you.
That. And it was good. I mean, it was fine. I'm not just...
You're not saying it's bad.
No, I wasn't saying it's bad. I just
Right.
thought it was... I didn't think it was even close to Star Wars. Now, I think you compare Lord of the Rings now to Star Wars now and what's coming out now, maybe you have a better argument, because I don't like a lot of the
But
newer
some
stuff.
people might also say, well, Lord of the Rings now, they're
I've
trying to make
heard
all
it's
these offshoots.
yeah. I've heard it's
and these
yeah.
other TV
Did you like
shows.
the Rings of Power or whatever? It was?
I'm here. More content is better.
Yeah.
I just want to see the worlds developed and see, you know, like more
Is there something they could
iterations of
do
it.
though that would be like, whoa? Have they broke any of the lore? Have they retconned anything?
Well, yeah, they've done things where they're like the rings of power. So you have like the one ring that everybody's familiar with, but then like rings went to men, elves, dwarves. They changed the order in which those rings were actually made, and there's a certain there's reasons why the rings were made in certain orders in the books. Also, this whole thing, spoiler, with Galadriel having this weird like. There's like sexual tension between Galadriel and Sauron or something. There's like this weird romance that doesn't need to be there. Same with having Elrond kiss Galadriel. That was just like, you would never need that to happen.
Yeah.
These random things. But I get it. They're doing it for like the average viewer, you know, who doesn't know all this other shit and doesn't listen to.
They're doing it for the boyfriend or girlfriend that's watching it with their significant other. That's like, this is.
I listen to 90-minute Lord of the Rings podcasts, and they break down 4 pages of a book, dude. Like, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So she might not be into all that.
Yeah.
So she's just, well, yeah.
I get it. She's just like, you just got to watch it casually, and you want to then see cool battle and then see like beautiful, like mystical fantasy, like landscape. I get that.
What do you say to people that there's a when me, my sister and my girlfriend were watching them for the first time last year, there's people that said or criticize it for there's only, it doesn't pass that film test or the test where it's like 2 women characters having a conversation with each other. The first 3, and we watched the extended ones.
Oh yeah.
There was
I know what
never
you're talking
a plot.
about.
A plot driven or like reason for 2 women to speak to each other, and there's only that never happens. I don't think there ever, other than a child. I think a child talks to her mom in like one
is the only
line of
like
dialogue.
a daughter talks to the mom is the only women to women conversation. There's like if I can think about it, there's Arwen.
It's kind of a sausage party.
Arwen, Eowyn,
movie.
and Galadriel are like the only women in that movie.
Yeah. In the original 3 movies, right? Yeah.
There's like no.
There's one mom like peasant that is when they're kind of like back
in Helm's Deep, and they're scared because they're getting sieged upon. And then there's like a female hobbit who scowls at her husband when the fireworks go off. She goes, I don't have a good answer for that.
No, I don't. But it was something that was like, we just thought it was funny while we were watching.
Yeah, you're like, wait, there's really nothing.
Because everyone said that. I'm like, there's no way. And then we watched the extended. And I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
It is kind of wild to think about that now, right?
There's like how did that even happen? Yeah, but the Rings of Power, I'm sure, is not like that.
No, because it's Galadriel. She's the main character, so she is like, and she's such a powerful character in the lore,
in the
regardless.
Original,
so that makes sense, especially all the other books that go into it.
So you've read all the books then?
I've read the main trilogy. So that's like Fellowship, Two Towers, and Return of the King. Read The Hobbit, reading the Silmarillion. That thing's like a fucking beast. That's tough to read.
Yeah.
And then there's like a bunch of other books that I haven't read yet.
Who's your favorite character?
Ooh.
And why?
I like Merry and Pippin in the same sense of like They're a little comedic relief. They get into some tomfoolery.
Yeah.
Kind of like a Jar Jar in that sense, where most
Yeah.
people might write them off or be like, what the fuck are they doing?
They
And,
rock
like,
with the trees, right?
they rock with the trees, dude. The
Yeah.
Ents are sick.
Yeah.
Those are pretty badass too, you know?
Those were sick watching
Yeah,
on the first
yeah.
watch. Yeah.
So I'd say Merry Pippin. Sam is the truest hero of all, you know, him just being like by Frodo's side no matter what.
Yeah, I remember watching that, like, and we were shipping them the whole time we were watching it. But also, like, I'm like, dude, Frodo sucks. He blows ass.
Yeah, he's being a terrible friend.
He's so bad.
He sucks ass.
He's like the opposite. Like, people criticize the new Star Wars films for maybe Rey being able to do everything. Like, she's just super capable.
Yeah.
Frodo is the antithesis of that. Like, he's the opposite, complete opposite. Can't do anything. Can't walk in a line.
Yeah, I know.
He just falls randomly, and Sam's always picking him
What are
back
you
up.
doing?
It's like, just like, I love you,
Right?
Frodo. Like,
Okay, so this is becoming a Lord of the Rings podcast, which
Yeah,
this is not
I'm
what it
cool
is.
with.
Well, no, I got something for you, being a
Okay.
Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
I went to school with Jed Lucas, George Lucas's son. He went to my high school. George Lucas has Skywalker Ranch, which is this huge compound in a beautiful hiking area right next to this really popular trail called Big Rock Ridge. And you can hike up Big Rock Ridge and then look down into Skywalker Ranch. And George Lucas has a huge ass property, and he's bought a lot of the surrounding land, so you can't like meddle with it.
Yeah.
But you can see, you know, his home. It's beautiful. It's super cool. And then he has another home. And the reason I know that this thing exists is I'll talk to you about it afterwards.
Okay.
But he has a Ewok hut in one of his other homes in like a tree house Ewok
Like
hut.
an actual tree platform Ewok hut.
Yeah.
That's so badass.
Yeah. I've seen it.
People hate the Ewoks, too. I didn't hate the Ewoks at all.
Why would you hate the Ewoks, dude?
People hated them when they came out.
They're so cool. And they're badass. They're these little creatures that are overcoming odds, and they're doing whatever they can to fight for. I mean, that's the same thing with Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. You have so many different like beings and different like people.
Incredible
together.
world building in both cases.
Great world
I'd say.
building. But yeah, George Lucas, his son. I went to high school with his son.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Was he cool? Was he okay?
I didn't know him.
Oh, okay.
But like I think he was a senior when I was a freshman.
All right.
But you just know, like, oh shit, that's George Lucas's son.
Yeah. Did he walk different? Did he
I don't
smell
really
different?
remember.
Did he wear the same? Did he wear like a plaid button up like George? Did he look like George Lucas?
He didn't look like George Lucas.
Damn it. That'd have been cool.
And I'm pretty sure his name was Jed, which is crazy because that's just one letter away from Jedi, which is crazy to like name your kid like almost Jedi.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Wow. That's awesome.
Because then you're like always in that shadow.
Why was he here? Oh wait, you were on. I forget you were on.
This was
the
in
West Coast,
back in the San Francisco area, and there's like a Star Wars museum, and there's all this other stuff.
Yeah. I'm thinking Wisconsin. I'm like, dude, why the fuck is Jed here?
And actually, a lot of the Ewok world looks like hiking areas where I grew up along the coast.
Well, yeah, they filmed it over in the redwood forest over there. Yeah,
those are all redwoods. Yeah,
that's so cool, dude.
It's super badass. I love that.
Are you gonna ever visit where they filmed Lord of the Rings?
New Zealand? I don't know. I'd rather go to like, at the moment, my travel philosophy is I want to go to places where I'll likely be less comfortable and I don't know the language. So I want to go to like Georgia, not the state, but the country, in like the Caucasus Mountain region, or I want to go to Japan, or I want to go to something like that.
Yeah.
Because right now I'm willing to be uncomfortable. When I'm older and I'm like, I don't want to have to deal with different languages and that barrier and all these other things, then I'll go to New Zealand.
Yeah. Okay.
But right now I want to do some crazy cool shit to travel, rather than, I don't really need to go to England right now. England's cool, but I just don't.
Yeah.
It's easier.
Yeah. The food's not good though. That's what I hear.
I don't know anything about
I
it. Fish and chips, mate.
Yeah, the fish and chips. That's all they got. We got that on Fridays, so.
We go out on Fridays too, mate.
Yeah, dude, you're pretty good.
That's like real Cockney accent.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Well, James, I appreciate you doing the show, man, making the time,
fun.
coming out here and hanging out. Just, I hope, this upcoming year, 2025, is the best yet for you and your news reporting.
Thank you.
It's exciting to see. We'll have your stuff linked down below when this airs.
Link in the description.
Check him out, guys, if you haven't already. I also want to say a quick shout out to everyone who listened or is watching tonight during the premiere, or if you're viewing or listening over on Spotify days after, thank you as well. I want to say a quick shout out to our patrons. They'll be up on the screen right now if you guys are interested in getting behind the scenes access to extra videos, extra podcasts, as well as a series where I break down how I mix, master, write, record every single one of my songs, go to patreon.com/DarrenRita. You can help support the channel for as little as $1. Also want to say quick shout out to Alpine House 2 for sponsoring another episode of the podcast. That's at Alpine House 2 on Instagram. Check them out. With all that being said, though, this has been the 288th episode of the Detox Podcast. I will see you guys next week. Peace.